Ethan Cole had everything: private jets, skyscrapers with his name, and an empire that bowed to his signature. Yet inside, he was hollow. He believed kindness was weakness and money was the only truth. But one freezing evening, fate hit him where it hurt the most: his pride. As his black car rolled down a narrow street, he saw something that made him slam the brakes. His mother, the woman who raised him to be strong, elegant, and untouchable, was sitting on the cold pavement, leaning against a thin teenage boy in torn clothes. The boy's face was pale. His hands were trembling from the cold. She looked at peace, but Ethan's blood boiled. To him, this wasn't compassion. It was humiliation. How could the mother of a billionaire sit beside a street beggar? He rushed out, voice shaking between anger and confusion. Before he could speak, his mother whispered, "Ethan, meet Liam. He helped me when I fell." Ethan's eyes narrowed. Helped her? He saw the boy's bleeding hand, but his mind twisted it into something darker. Maybe it was an act. Maybe this boy had planned it. He didn't know why, but something about Liam's silence felt dangerous. He walked away, jaw clenched, unaware that his life had just collided with a truth he'd been running from for years. The next morning, Ethan expected everything to go back to normal. But when he returned home, the same boy was there, in his garden, feeding birds beside his mother. The scene felt unreal. That poor, dirty teen didn't belong in the marble kingdom of the Coles. His mother smiled warmly. "He's been helping me with the flowers. Isn't he wonderful?" Ethan's chest tightened. Wonderful? He saw only risk, a stranger touching his mother's world. He quietly ordered his assistant, "Find out everything about him." By evening, the report came. No address, no school, no ID, just a name and a note. Sleeps near the old subway tunnels. Ethan's heart turned to stone. "I want him gone before tomorrow." But when he went to his mother's room to confront her, she was praying. Her frail voice stopped him at the door. "Ethan," she said, "sometimes angels come dressed as the poor." That single sentence unsettled him more than any threat ever could. He didn't believe in angels, only motives. Yet that night, her words wouldn't leave his mind. Days passed, and the boy didn't leave. Ethan's mother grew healthier, lighter. He saw her smile again, her laughter echoing through the halls. But every time she laughed, it burned inside him. He couldn't understand why. Liam worked quietly, sweeping, cleaning, never complaining. There was something calm, almost pure about him, and that made Ethan even more uneasy. At dinner one night, Ethan broke the silence. "What do you want from us, Liam?" he asked coldly. The boy looked up slowly, his eyes full of fear and honesty. "Nothing, sir. I just want a place to belong." Those words should have softened him, but they didn't. Instead, they echoed inside him like an old wound. Ethan couldn't trust them. He decided to follow the boy, convinced he would find something dark, a reason to prove his judgment right. That night, when the mansion fell silent, Ethan watched Liam sneak out through the side gate. His heart raced. Where is he going? He followed, staying in the shadows. The night grew colder. Liam walked into a part of the city Ethan had never seen. Broken buildings, stray dogs, silence thick with pain. Ethan's anger began to turn into curiosity, and then horror. Ethan watched Liam enter a half-burnt warehouse. The billionaire followed, stepping softly, his breath visible in the cold air. Inside, a small candle flickered. Then came a soft voice. "Liam, did you bring food?" "Yes, Emma, I got you bread," the boy whispered. Ethan froze. In that dim light, he saw a little girl, maybe 9 years old, lying on a pile of blankets, shivering. Her eyes were weak but gentle. She smiled when Liam tore his sandwich in half and gave her the bigger piece. He didn't eat. He just watched her eat, as if her happiness fed him. Ethan felt his throat tighten. This wasn't a trick. This was love, real, raw, unpolished. The billionaire who trusted no one now felt ashamed of himself. He wanted to step forward, to help, but his pride held him back. He turned and walked away into the night, but the image of that starving girl followed him like a ghost. The next day, Ethan couldn't think straight. At every meeting, every deal, he saw that girl's fragile face in his mind. He tried to push it away, but her eyes haunted him, and then, for the first time in years, memories came back, memories he had buried. He was 10 when he saw his father insult a beggar asking for help. Ethan had tried to give the man some coins, but his father had slapped them out of his hand. "Money is for the strong," his father had said. "Never waste it on the weak." Those words had become Ethan's law. He had built his empire on that belief. But now, seeing Liam and Emma, he realized his father's law was wrong, dangerously wrong. When he saw Liam again, he didn't shout. He asked quietly, "Why didn't you tell anyone about her?" Liam looked down. "No one listens, sir. People only see dirt, not the person." Those words pierced Ethan's soul. For years he had done the same, seen dirt, not people. He turned away before the boy could see his eyes, because for the first time, the billionaire wanted to cry. That night, Ethan decided he would fix things. He would find the girl and get her help. But when he reached the old building, the candle was out and the blanket was empty. Emma was gone. His pulse quickened. He called hospitals, shelters, police, nothing. Then, just as panic took over, his phone rang. It was his driver. "Sir," he said nervously, "your mother and the boy, they left together." Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. "Where did they go?" The driver hesitated. "To the subway tunnels, sir. Where the homeless live. Your mother said she's going to save someone." For a moment, Ethan couldn't breathe. His world, the safe, controlled world he built, was crumbling. His sick, fragile mother was now in the one place he feared most. He grabbed his coat and ran into the night, heart pounding like thunder. For the first time in his life, Ethan Cole wasn't running toward power. He was running toward love, terrified that this time love might not wait for him. The night air was heavy as Ethan's car sped toward the subway tunnels. Every second felt like an hour. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. "Sometimes angels come dressed as the poor." Now that line didn't sound poetic. It sounded like a warning. He reached the edge of the city, where the rich never went. Broken signs, flickering streetlights, and shadows that seemed alive. He stopped near the old station and saw an open tunnel, breathing out cold air and darkness. Without waiting, he ran inside. His footsteps echoed as the sound of dripping water followed him. Somewhere deep inside, he heard voices. One of them was his mother's. "Don't be afraid," she said softly. Ethan's heart jumped. He turned a corner and froze. There she was, sitting beside Liam again, holding a weak, trembling girl in her lap. It was Emma. She was barely breathing. "Ethan, help me!" his mother cried. "She's burning with fever." He rushed forward, tearing off his coat and wrapping it around the girl. As he lifted her, he realized this tunnel wasn't just a hiding place. It was a small city of forgotten souls, dozens of people lying in the shadows, watching in silence. For the first time, the billionaire saw the world he had ignored all his life. Ethan carried Emma to his car, his mother and Liam following close behind. But the further they walked, the more he noticed. People whispering, reaching out, eyes full of fear and hunger. He saw children sleeping under cardboard, old men shivering with open wounds. Something cracked inside him. He had spent his life donating money to charities he never visited. He thought he knew poverty, but this was different. This was real. When they reached the car, Emma was losing consciousness. Ethan told his driver to step on it. He looked at Liam, who was silently holding his sister's hand, praying under his breath. Ethan felt guilt burn through him. All this time, he had hated a boy who had nothing, and still gave everything. When they reached the hospital, the receptionist hesitated after seeing Liam's torn clothes. Ethan slammed his ID card on the counter. "She's my responsibility now," he barked. For the first time, his power wasn't used to control. It was used to save. Hours passed. Ethan sat beside his mother in the waiting room, eyes fixed on the ICU door. Liam was sitting silently in a corner, holding the bracelet Emma used to wear. Finally, the doctor came out. "She's alive," he said, "but her condition is serious. She needs surgery and long-term care." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Do whatever it takes," but his mother placed a hand on his arm. "Ethan," she whispered, You can't just save one girl. You have to save the part of yourself that stopped caring. Those words cut deeper than the doctor's report. He looked around at the poor sitting in the hospital corridor, tired, invisible, forgotten, and realized how blind he'd been. When Liam looked up at him and said, "Thank you, sir," Ethan couldn't speak, because deep inside he knew he was the one being saved. 2 days later, Ethan went home, but the mansion felt cold and empty. He looked at his reflection in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. The eyes that once shone with pride now looked tired and alive. He walked into his father's old office, where a framed quote still hung on the wall. "Money is only for the strong." Ethan stared at it for a long time. Then he took the frame down, shattered the glass, and whispered, "No, money is for the living." That night, he called a meeting with his board of directors. "I'm starting a new foundation," he announced. "For the homeless, especially children. I'll handle the cost myself." The board was shocked. "Sir, this could affect our profits," one of them warned. Ethan smiled coldly. "Then let it." He finally understood that his wealth meant nothing if it couldn't give life meaning. But fate wasn't done testing him. 3 nights later, as Ethan visited the hospital again, he noticed something strange. The same black car parked across the street for hours. When he left the building, the car started following. He ignored it at first. But when it sped closer, his instincts kicked in. Someone inside threw a bottle. It shattered on the road, spilling a burning liquid. Fire flared. Liam screamed, pulling Ethan and Emma back just in time. Chaos erupted. The attackers sped away, tires screeching. Ethan's security chased, but they were gone. The next morning, the police told him it wasn't random, it was business. One of his rivals didn't like his charity projects. Ethan realized something dark. Helping the poor had made him enemies among the rich. But for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid. He looked at Liam and said, "If they're afraid of kindness, we're doing something right." Weeks passed. Emma slowly recovered, and the hospital room filled with warmth again. Ethan's mother spent hours reading stories to her, while Liam helped around the ward. One evening, as the sun set outside, Ethan sat beside Liam and asked quietly, "Why didn't you give up?" "You could have begged, stolen, but you worked, you cared." Liam smiled faintly. "Because my mother used to say, if you stop caring, you stop being human." Those words hit Ethan like thunder. That was his mother's line. Years ago, she'd said the same thing to him when he was a boy. He looked across the room, at his mother smiling softly as she held Emma's hand, and understood everything. She hadn't brought Liam into their lives by chance. She had seen what Ethan couldn't, a reflection of the goodness he had buried deep inside. Tears filled his eyes. For the first time in decades, the billionaire felt small, but in the best way possible. He realized that love doesn't take away power, it gives it meaning. Months passed, and Ethan's new foundation, The Light Beneath, began its work. He turned old factories into shelters, hired doctors for street children, and even built mobile kitchens that served food in the slums. Every news channel praised his transformation. But behind those bright headlines, enemies were growing in silence. One evening, Ethan sat with his mother and Liam, watching the first shelter open on live TV. The crowd cheered. Cameras flashed, and Ethan smiled for the first time in years. A real smile. "This is for you," he told his mother. "You showed me what money is meant for." But just as he turned off the TV, his phone buzzed with an anonymous message. "The boy you trust. He's not who you think he is." Ethan's hand froze. His mind went blank. The words burned on the screen. For a moment, he wanted to delete it. But the old part of him, the part that trusted no one, came back to life. He looked at Liam, laughing with Emma across the room, and a seed of doubt started to grow again. Over the next few days, Ethan noticed strange things. Documents missing, files moved, small errors in the foundation's finances. He didn't want to believe it, but every clue seemed to lead back to Liam. One night, He stayed late at the office, pretending to leave. When everyone was gone, he saw a shadow moving in his office. Liam. The boy was standing near Ethan's desk, typing something on the computer. Liam? Ethan's voice echoed through the hall. The boy jumped. His eyes widened. Sir, I was just stealing from me? Ethan snapped. For a moment, silence filled the room. Liam's face went pale. I was checking something, he said softly. Someone hacked your foundation's account. I was trying to trace it. Ethan's blood boiled. Enough lies, he shouted. I gave you everything, and you repay me like this? Liam didn't argue. He just looked down, hurt in his eyes. Then he said one sentence that would haunt Ethan later. One day you'll wish you had trusted me. He walked out into the night. The next morning, everything exploded. News headlines screamed, Billionaire's charity scandal, millions missing. Videos of Ethan's foundation office being raided spread online. Donors pulled out, investors panicked, and the same people who once praised him now called him a fraud. Ethan couldn't believe it. The accounts showed that the missing money had been transferred using Liam's access codes. He felt betrayed, broken, and humiliated in front of the entire world. At home, his mother tried to speak. Ethan, listen, but he cut her off. No, Mother. I trusted him, and he destroyed everything. That night, he went to the hospital to tell Emma that her brother was gone. But her bed was empty. The nurse said they left hours ago. Quietly, Ethan's world collapsed again. This time, not from greed or pride, but from heartbreak. Days later, the police found the missing funds, but not in any foreign account. They were hidden in a secret foundation under Liam's name, one registered to feed and educate homeless kids near the tunnels. Ethan's hands trembled as he read the report. Liam hadn't stolen the money. He had moved it before someone else could. Someone had hacked the system, and Liam had been trying to protect Ethan's charity all along. Guilt hit him like a storm. He rushed to the tunnels, hoping to find Liam, but all he found were old clothes, a few toys, and Emma's broken bracelet. A man sitting near the fire looked up and said, You're too late. They were here last night. Someone was chasing them! Ethan's heart pounded. Who? The man shrugged. Rich men in black cars. Everything made sense now. The same people who had attacked him weeks ago had framed Liam to destroy the foundation. Ethan's voice shook with rage. Where did they go? To the train yard, the man said. But if you go there now, you might not come back. The sky was dark as Ethan drove to the abandoned train yard. Lightning flashed across the clouds, thunder rumbling like war drums. He could see movement between the trains, shadows, men in suits, and two smaller figures tied near the end of the platform. It was Liam and Emma. Ethan stepped out quietly, his heart beating fast. He saw one of his former business partners, Victor Hale, the same man who had warned him against the charity, standing with a gun. Victor laughed. I told you, Ethan, helping the poor makes you weak. Now your empire is mine, Ethan shouted. Let them go. Victor aimed the gun at Liam. Why? He's the one who ruined everything. And then everything happened at once. Ethan lunged forward as the shot rang out. The bullet grazed his arm, pain exploding through him. But he kept running. He tackled Victor to the ground, fighting through the rain and dirt. Liam used the moment to cut the rope and shield his sister. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Ethan's driver had called them. Victor tried to reach for the gun again, but Ethan slammed his hand away, shouting, This is what real strength looks like! Protecting, not destroying! Seconds later, the police swarmed the yard. Victor was arrested, and Ethan collapsed beside Liam, bleeding but alive. Morning sunlight broke through the clouds as Ethan woke up in the hospital, bandaged, weak but smiling. Beside his bed sat Liam and Emma. His mother stood near the window, tears shining in her eyes. Liam spoke first. I'm sorry I didn't tell you everything, sir. I was trying to keep your project safe. Ethan shook his head. No, Liam, I'm sorry. I was blind. Again! He reached out and held Liam's hand. From today, this foundation, it's yours as much as mine. Liam's eyes widened in shock. But I'm just... Ethan interrupted softly. "You're the reason it exists." His mother smiled, whispering, "Now you understand, Ethan. Strength isn't about power. It's about heart." Outside, cameras were already waiting, but this time Ethan didn't care about the headlines. He knew his story wasn't about wealth anymore. It was about redemption, trust, and humanity. And as he looked at Liam and Emma, he realized he hadn't just saved 2 lives. They had saved his soul. Peace didn't last long. A month after Victor's arrest, Ethan's foundation was rising again. Shelters opening, children smiling, and hope spreading through the streets. But then, one night, as he was leaving a charity event, a letter slipped under his car door. It read, "Your family's secret built your empire. The truth will destroy you. No name, no address. Only a red wax seal, shaped like a crown." Ethan froze. The symbol looked familiar. It was the same logo used by his late father's first company, Coal Industries. He hadn't seen it in decades, but something deep in his gut whispered, "The past isn't done with you yet." The next morning, Ethan searched through his father's old safe, the one he hadn't opened since childhood. Inside, he found a stack of dusty files marked confidential. As he read them, his chest tightened. They revealed a horrifying truth. His father's company had once cleared an entire neighborhood to build their first factory. Hundreds of poor families had been forced out. Among the victims was a woman who died during the demolition, leaving behind 2 children. At the bottom of the page was her name, Grace Bennett. And beneath it, Mother's handwriting. Ethan's heart stopped. He ran to his mother's room, shaking, the file in his hand. "Why is your name here?" he demanded. She looked up, eyes full of pain. "Because I was there, Ethan," she said quietly. "Your father destroyed that neighborhood. I was a volunteer nurse when I saw the suffering. I tried to stop him, but he never listened." Ethan whispered. "And those 2 children? The ones who lost their mother?" Tears rolled down her face. "One of them was Liam." The world went silent. Ethan's body went cold as realization hit him. The boy he once called a liar was the son of one of his father's victims. Ethan couldn't speak. He sat in silence as the truth tore through him like lightning. His empire, his name, his wealth had all been built on pain. On Liam's pain, his mother's voice trembled. "I didn't know who he was when I met him that day on the street," she said. "But when I looked into his eyes, I saw his mother. The same fear. The same goodness." Ethan buried his face in his hands. He had hated the boy who carried the consequences of his father's sins. And yet Liam had forgiven him without even knowing it. He whispered brokenly, "Does Liam know?" His mother shook her head. "Not yet." Ethan stood up slowly. "Then he'll hear it from me." That evening, Ethan called Liam and Emma to the office. They arrived quietly, shy, respectful, unaware of what was coming. Ethan looked at them for a long time, unable to speak. Finally, he said, "There's something you deserve to know. About me and about your past." He handed Liam the file. As the boy read, his hands began to shake. This was your father's company?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, my father caused it." "I'm sorry, Liam. I can't erase what he did, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right." For a long moment, Liam said nothing. Then tears filled his eyes, not from anger, but from something deeper. "My mother used to say, 'Forgiveness heals faster than revenge,'" he whispered. He looked up. "You're not your father, sir. You changed. That's enough." Ethan felt his throat tighten. That moment, that forgiveness, broke every wall left inside him. For the first time in his life, Ethan Cole cried without shame. But fate had one more trial waiting. A week later, while Ethan was visiting one of the new shelters, an explosion ripped through the building. Smoke, screams, chaos. Fire devoured everything. Ethan rushed in, ignoring the flames. "Get the kids out!" he shouted. He could hear Emma crying somewhere inside. He ran through the burning hall, coughing through the smoke. Then he saw her, trapped under a beam. Liam was trying to lift it, but it wouldn't move. "Ethan, help!" he yelled. Together they pushed, coughing, burning, until the beam shifted enough for Emma to crawl out. But then another crash. The roof began to fall. Ethan shoved Liam and Emma toward the door. "Go!" he shouted. "Don't look back!" Liam refused. "Not without you!" Ethan smiled faintly. "You already saved me once. Go!" The fire swallowed him in orange light as they ran out. When Ethan opened his eyes, he was in a hospital bed again, his body bandaged, his lungs weak, but he was alive. His mother sat beside him, holding his hand. Liam and Emma were there too, eyes red from crying. Ethan whispered, voice rough, "Everyone safe?" Liam nodded. "Yes, because of you." Ethan smiled weakly. Then it was worth it. That day, the world saw a different headline. Billionaire risks life to save homeless children in fire. Donations poured in. The foundation grew stronger than ever. But Ethan didn't care about fame, he cared about faces. Every child who smiled, every mother who slept without fear, that was his reward. One afternoon, as he watched Liam play football with the other kids, his mother whispered, "You found your real fortune." "Ethan, not in gold, in grace." Ethan smiled softly, looking at the children laughing in the sunlight. For the first time, he felt peace. The man who once believed money was everything had finally discovered what it meant to be human. Years passed. The city changed. Brighter streets, new shelters, and children who no longer slept in fear. Ethan Cole's foundation, the light beneath, had grown into a movement across the country. What started as guilt became hope for thousands. But time, as always, brings both healing and farewell. One quiet morning, Ethan walked into his mother's room and found her sitting by the window, watching the sunrise. Her silver hair glowed in the soft light. She looked peaceful, almost glowing. He sat beside her, holding her frail hand. "Mother," he said softly, "the world finally knows your truth. You were the light behind it all." She smiled faintly. "No, Ethan, you were the light. You just needed the darkness to find it." He tried to speak, but she placed a hand on his cheek. "Promise me one thing," she whispered. "Keep giving, even when the world forgets to thank you." He nodded, tears rolling down his face. Her smile lingered for a moment, then faded softly, like the last note of a song. Weeks later, the city gathered to honor her. At the ceremony, Ethan stood on stage with Liam and Emma beside him. He didn't read from any paper. He just spoke from the heart. "My mother taught me that money doesn't build empires. Kindness does. She believed that love is not weakness. It's the only strength that lasts." He turned toward Liam and placed a hand on his shoulder. "This foundation now belongs to the next generation, to those who know pain but choose compassion instead." The crowd rose in applause, but Ethan's eyes stayed on the sky. He could almost hear his mother's voice again, soft, proud, eternal. "Sometimes angels come dressed as the poor." He smiled through his tears. Now he finally understood. His mother hadn't just said it, she had lived it. And so had Liam. As the sun set behind the city skyline, Ethan walked through the shelter courtyard, now filled with laughter, music, and hope. Liam was teaching a group of children how to read, while Emma painted a mural on the wall, a picture of hands reaching out of darkness toward light. Ethan stopped to look at it. Under the mural, Emma had written 3 words in bright blue paint: "Love builds everything." Ethan smiled, because that was the truth he had been searching for all his life. He looked up at the sky one last time and whispered, "You were right, Mother. Angels really do come dressed as the poor."